Hey everybody, it's Sally. Before we get started in the episode, I just wanted to remind you guys that I wrote a book. I know you can't forget it because I will not shut up about it. But what you might not know is that my book, that's called Going to Maine, it is a memoir about my experience through hiking the Appalachian Trail, is available for pre-order. And pre-orders are super important to authors because it signals to the publisher, bookstores, libraries, and kind of the publishing industry at large that people are interested in your book. So if you are interested in my book, I would love if you would pre-order it. It comes out September 10th, so anytime before then would be amazing. It's available as an e-reader, it's available in paperback, and it will be available as an audiobook. You can find it anywhere that you find books. You can find it at Amazon, at bookshop.org, at Barnes & Noble, even at Target. So thank you guys so much for all of your support and enjoy the podcast.
And now it's time for the ridiculous.
What kinds of things make people piss?
And how many suitors exactly has she dismissed?
Siri, what are some locations for a lover's tryst?
Oh, darling, surely there must be a list.
A list?
A list?
A list?
A list?
You're telling me it's all here on this bleeding list? That's preposterous and ludicrous.
Well, actually, it's all quite
Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous.
Welcome to The Ridiculous. I'm Sally Brooks.
And I'm Jen O'Neill, and we're back with more ridiculous lists for you this week.
We're back. How you doing,
We're back,
Jen?
baby? I'm good.
Yeah?
Doing good.
What did you and Louise end up going to that dance class last week?
We did.
Or this
we
week?
did. And it was, yeah. And Louise had a blast. And I was like, she might look at me different after this. And she kind of does. Like, I think
Like in a great way?
not in a way that like I wasn't too like sexy or whatever, but it was like, but I think she was just surprised that like, oh, like you know how to dance. I think she
Yeah.
was surprised that like it felt very much like one of my favorite scenes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. If I am going to toot my own horn and compare myself to the beautiful Aunt Viv #1. But do you remember that scene
And
when like
also at the same time simultaneously aging yourself.
Right. But do you remember that scene when like she goes to take a dance class and they're all like, move over, old lady. And then she like does this like number and that blows everybody at the park. And they're like,
Yes.
whoa. It wasn't like that. First, I didn't do a number that blew at everybody, but I outdanced my 11-year-old daughter. I will say that.
Fuck yeah. I mean,
I was
what
like,
else has
hey,
this all
I
been
ran
for?
circles around that girl. I was like, move out of the way, Louise. 5, 6, 7, 8. No, she it was fine. It was good. I will say that there was I felt a little weird because like it was like only like 5 adult women and then me and my 11-year-old daughter. And
Yeah.
while people have brought children to the class before, it is, you know, they don't censor the music. There's some sexy moves or whatever, but I was okay with that.
Right.
And but there was these 2 women that were kind of like whispering to themselves, to each other and giggling at certain points. And it felt very much just like there's 5 of us in the room. Clearly you're talking about one of us or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I felt this, and it's like, because if you're talking about me, I don't care. Like I could give 2 shits, but
Right.
it had something to do with, I thought that they might be talking about my daughter. And I didn't want my daughter to feel awkward. And I stopped myself and I calmed down. And I didn't do it. But I was like, oh, I felt old New York Jen, teenager Jen come up.
yeah.
And I was this close to being like, is there a fucking problem? Like I was so close to cracking my knuckles and being like, excuse me. But I didn't. And I was just like, oh my God, who is that beast that's in? Like it
Right.
was such a weird feeling. I was like, I didn't even know that person existed anymore, but she's in there. And it started to come up, but I've suppressed it. We got through the dance class, but
Yeah.
I felt like they were like talking shit and I wanted to murder them, but I didn't. I didn't.
I mean, it's amazing what like will come out of you when you think somebody is giving like any kind of side eye to your child, even if it's another child.
Yes, it was so. I have to say, it was so primal. Like it was
Yeah.
like I shocked myself with like I was this close, but I was like, no, no, no. Like I don't want to. I'm
Right.
not that person. I don't want to upset my daughter even more. I don't want to bring attention to the whatever. But if
Yeah.
I could have like done a Zach Morris, like time out and like push my daughter aside, I would have
Yeah.
fucking laid right into those ladies, but I didn't. But I will say the instructor was wonderful and amazing and so sweet to Louise. And
Yeah.
so she was awesome and she was so
I mean, their
encouraging.
kids are there a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I think it
Yeah.
probably is like would less stand out on like a Wednesday night when there's lots of kids or lots of people there, like the smaller class, maybe, or maybe just those women are straight up bitches and point them out to me next time and I'll take care of them.
Fucking cunts. I'll rip
Yeah.
the goddamn face off.
Look, I never lived in New York. I mean, well, no, I did live in New York, but I didn't grow up there. But like, I'll fucking become New York Sally if you need me to.
Oh yeah.
If you need me to,
We'll
like,
start a rival dance gang. It'll be like the
Yes.
Sharks versus the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, you
The
fucking
fucking
hoe
shark.
bags.
Yeah.
You mess with my fucking kid, I will
my
rip your
daughter?
face off. I remember being at a playground and there were some like, they had to be like 6 or 7 year olds. And Max was maybe, and he was like newly walking. So he was under 2 or yeah, he was like maybe 1.5. So he was like toddling around and he like a lot of kids brought chalk to the playgrounds. Cause of course in New York, it was like, fucking everything's concrete, right? So like,
Right,
there was
right.
lots of like, chalking on the playgrounds. And so gave him some chalk and like these kids, he was like trying to share with these
Because
kids
he's such a sweet boy.
because he was so sweet and they were taking them and breaking them.
And
But he was like following him around because he was like a little baby, sweet, sweet baby. And finally I was like, Max, like in the middle, I was like looking around for their parents. They were nowhere to be found. And I just like got in the middle. I was like, Max, we are not associating with these kids. They are not nice boys. And those kids were probably like, oh.
they
But
need
I was like,
to
they're
know.
so mean.
They need
So mean.
Yeah, they needed to know that they were being mean.
They're being little
Clearly their
bullies to a
parents were
baby.
not. Yeah, what a bunch
There
of
are no,
jerks.
I don't know where their parents were.
I don't know.
Man. Okay. Well, so I guess the moral of that is don't fucking come after our kids.
Don't. I'll kill you. Clearly.
Clearly. All right, let's get to our lists.
Okay, cool. I think I'm going first this week, right?
Yes.
And this is so fitting, and we didn't know what we were going to talk about up top. We were just really going for it. But anyway, but this actually kind of lines up. My listicle this week is of course from BuzzFeed, and it's written by Kayla Yondoli. And it's 21 traumatizing things adults have said to young women that have haunted them to this day.
Oh, wow.
Like, can you remember something that when you were a little girl, somebody said to you and it just like you've never forgotten and it really fucked with you?
Well, I can remember like some very like just I remember a girl on my softball team talking about like, oh, well, if you want to like get into a dress, you just like for like 3 days, just make yourself throw up. It's like so easy. And then you can like, and I remember just being like, oh, and then trying it because I was maybe, like 13 or 14 and like being like, this is just normal. This is just what people do. And this woman, the girl who said it was like a senior and she was so beautiful and thin.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
It's funny now that you said that. That reminds me of this. I remember sitting next to this girl in homeroom, and she was, one of the cool, popular girls. And I remember her like casually saying, like, "Yeah, and I'm not eating anything because it's Friday, and I want to get drunker faster tonight."
Yeah,
like, and I'm like, that's something people do. You just don't eat, so you get drunker faster. Like, And then I was just like, I guess that's just how you get drunk, is you don't eat food. But
I mean, the other thing that's like way more lighthearted than that is I do still, and I've said this before on the podcast, I remember my grandpa telling me when I was a
oh right.
little kid that grandparents were made of sugar. And so if they went out in the rain, they would melt. And for years after that, I was so terrified that my grandpa was going to melt if he went out in the rain. So
Aw.
it took me years to be like, oh, he was just joking. He was just saying
Yeah.
grandparents are sweet.
I remember there being this bakery we used to go to, and the guy behind the counter said something to just like joking, but I didn't take it as a joke. But he was like, there was this big, huge, like industrial sized mixer. And he
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that's where we throw the bad kids in when they're acting up. And then I had like nightmares about like my
Yeah.
brother acting up and them trying to put him in the mixer and me trying to get my brother out of it and like all this, like it was just like that one thing that he said that he thought was so funny. I was just young and impressionable enough to like, I was terrified of that bakery
Yeah.
for forever.
I have
Yeah.
to say, like, things like this is going to make things a little serious. But was it Wednesday, one of the days this week, when Jen and I were both in like the pickup line at our kids' school,
Yeah.
they went on like a lockdown because somebody called and made a threat to the school. And all of the kids had to like hide. Like Max was like, oh, we have to hide. And then we all huddled together and they locked down the school and all these parents are just sitting waiting for like
It
a
was
half an hour. It was
traumatizing.
traumatizing. And I just think about that because Max seemed okay afterwards, but the fact that like he was telling me, oh, here's all the levels of the lockdown and this is what that means, and they were hearing what levels they were, and so he was like, I think somebody was in the school, and I was like, what the fuck, dude?
That's
Like,
what Louise said too, because
yeah,
the level. She was like, so somebody got in the school that wasn't supposed to be in there. And yeah, and they had to hide in the corner and barricade the door. At one point, someone was trying to get in. It was a teacher, but they didn't know that and was trying
right,
to get into the door. And then Louise, like, she was wrecked
yeah,
when I picked her up. And I was wrecked by the time I
yeah,
got to her. It was just like, yeah, it was a fucked up day.
yeah, and I just think like, it's like they're fine now, but like what things are like ruminating over and over in their heads from like all of this that we don't know about. Cause right, I'm sure that like all these offhanded comments that stuck with us. So you were having nightmares
Yeah.
about a kids getting put in a mixer.
I know, yeah. So I can't imagine. Yeah, and I know that one thing that really upset her was she said that one of her teachers was crying, and
Oh.
like that really, like that was when she started to really panic. Was when like
Mm.
she saw a teacher cry, but she said that there were 4 teachers in the room, and that made her feel better. But then she got upset when like one of them was crying, and then when someone was trying to get in the door, then they all started to freak out, and everybody was
Oh my
screaming, and so it
God.
was like, yeah, it was traumatic. But
Yeah, that's fucked up.
yeah, I mean, and what the fucked up thing is, I'm sure that my family's been through this before with Parkland.
Hmm.
2 of my cousins survived it. But the fucked up thing is, like, as we're telling this on the podcast, I guarantee you, every single parent is like, "Oh yeah, that happened at our school. We had this story like happen at our
Yeah.
school." This
I mean,
like,
this is the second time
it's
this
so
year
fucked up.
that
Yeah,
they've gone on a lockdown and this is like the safest area, right? You know what I mean? Like it's not, yeah, no, I mean, it could happen anywhere. That's like just the truth of it.
yeah. Back to comedy,
Okay,
and
hi,
okay, no,
sorry.
no, okay.
I can cut that out if we want
No,
to.
no, you don't have to. It's important stuff,
Yeah,
We just like, no crying. We're not crying. We're not talking
we're not
about
crying.
murder, but from time to time, we do have to talk about important things. Um, so this one says, but there is a warning on here. It says some submissions include topics of child abuse, eating disorder, suicide, and racism. Please proceed with caution. So I'll be choosy about the ones that I read.
Okay.
This one says, when I was around 9, my parents went through a truly disastrous and toxic divorce. It stretched for 3 years. I was the only child in the middle. I was the only child in the middle of the whole thing. I was very close to my mom and supposed to go away for 2 weeks with my dad, aunts, uncles, and cousins to a beach house for the summer. I was crying because I didn't want to leave my mom. She bought all of she bought me all kinds of things to take with me to try to keep me occupied, like sticker books, coloring books, and pencils. Well, one day when we were there, I was crying and my dad walked in and picked up some of the things that my mom had bought. And he yelled, "Can't you see she's just trying to buy your love?" I ran out of the house and down the beach because I was so upset. I didn't last the full 2 weeks. My mom picked me up for a day or two and then brought me back there. I'm in my late 40s now, and I still remember this incident so vividly. Oh, God, that's awful.
It's so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be so hard. Like, I know, it's like, I think that it is, people become people they would never think themselves to be, like, when going through hard times like that, going through a divorce or whatever. It's like, you would never think you'd be the person who would talk shit about your ex-spouse or ex-spouse. Like, but
Right.
like, it happens so often, and it
I'm
is impactful. You guys have been like,
I'm very
so
lucky and very fortunate that
yeah.
my kid's dad and my ex-husband is an amazing father, and he
Mhm.
knows, and we both are like kids above all else. Like I will
Yeah.
never ever say anything disparate. I did comedy in front of them recently, and I was like, no jokes about their dad, no
Right.
jokes about divorce, no, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
You were like,
So
I will make fun of them to their
yeah,
faces, those little
ruthlessly.
bitches.
They loved it, but I won't make
bet.
fun of their dad. It's different. This one says, and this is like, I'm sure you've heard this shit before too. We all did growing up, but it says like, this person said, "Are you sure you want to wear that t-shirt with that belly of yours? And are you sure you want another sandwich?" For reference, I was never overweight. I was quite thin. Eventually, I gained the appropriate amount of weight for my body when I was about 11. Then I developed an eating disorder until I was 15. I became thin again and dealt with body dysmorphia until I got pregnant at 31. It's like, yeah, those like little benign comments that you think are no big deal, or you're encouraging them to like be
Yeah.
mindful of their weight, can totally fuck a person up.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're just not like, unless it's like positive, and even if it is like somewhat positive, like, we just like are trying not to talk about
Yeah.
anybody's bodies. Like, that's just like, for kids, it is
Yeah.
so like, I just remember my mom being like, "Oh yeah, you've got my big thighs," and being like, "Oh my God, I have huge thighs." And like, when I was a kid, I was just a kid. I was just a normal size. And I did
Yeah.
have her body. I mean, I have the same shaped body as she had. Like, so I don't think like she wasn't saying it in a negative way. And I think the same thing about Max. I'm like, I see parts of me in him, but like, just the way it can be perceived, you just never know. And it's like, you're putting that in someone's head, and now they can never perceive themselves any other way.
Yeah. Um, this person, oh, this is fucked up too. This one says, "You're going to make somebody a great wife someday." Somebody said this to a girl. They said this when uh, they were watching me eat a big dill pickle. I was about 9 years old. Isn't that so fucked up?
That's so fucked up.
And this reminds me, and like nothing inappropriate ever happened, I will say
Mhm.
that, but I had a neighbor that would always joke with me and say, "I'm going to marry you someday. Well, you're going to be my wife and I'm going to marry you someday." And he would jokingly like be like, "There's my wife," and put his arm around me. And like, I remember like waiting in line for the ice cream man, for Mr. Softy, and him like being like, "Well, I'm going to buy my wife ice cream." And like nothing ever happened, but it was just like, this is
That's
weird. I'm a
so
child. You're a grown
inappropriate.
ass man. Yeah. I was like maybe 8 years old, but he always called me his wife.
Was he like an old man?
He was probably, when I think about it now, probably like a younger dad, like maybe 27, 28. But it
Oh,
was really fucked up. Yeah.
that's so fucked
I
up. Like,
know.
can't think of any context in which that is like funny or
Yeah.
like something that people used to say. Like, I just can't think
Yeah.
of like, that's so off. I'm sorry that happened to you.
I haven't thought about it until reading that. Like I
Yeah.
was just like, oh yeah, like guys are gross.
Oh right.
Disgusting.
Oh right.
Right, hey, men are terrible. Um, This one says, they said, your hair is so pretty for a mixed girl. Then they shoved their dirty fingers in my curls. I've always loved my hair, but I hate people touching it. And I definitely hate other people talking about my race. I know who I am, but I don't need to hear it coming from someone else's mouth. Yeah, that is
Oh yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
inappropriate.
That's so inappropriate. I have a coworker who has dreadlocks, and we were at a conference recently, and my day job is with like a very liberal nonprofit. And so we're at a
Mhm.
conference with a bunch of other very liberal nonprofit workers, and I cannot tell you the number of times white women were like, "Oh my God, your hair. Can I ask you about your hair? Is it okay to talk?" And then I was just like, "Holy shit, do we not know anything?
I
Stop
know. Like,
fucking
where
talking
are
about hair."
you?
Like, Jesus
I
Christ.
know.
What? No.
It's
No.
crazy. Like,
Stop
people should
it.
know that by now. I've witnessed in a bathroom like a woman trying to touch another woman's hair and her being like, no,
Yeah.
no. And she's like, come on, it's so beautiful. And she's like, do not touch my hair. And it's like, how
Yeah.
do you not know this?
Yeah.
Anyway, this one says, I confided in my mom that I was feeling depressed and unhappy about some things going on in my life. And she said, I'm not surprised. You've never been happy with anything in life or satisfied. It was completely untrue, but it made me think that I was a complainer, ungrateful, and terrible person for years. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, that's
Um,
really awful. I remember my mom used to always call me Sandra Bernhardt because she said they were like I was very dramatic, which I
it's
think
like,
is like it's so been so I always thought of myself as like, oh, I'm just like overly dramatic, but I don't think I've ever been actually that
no, I
dramatic.
don't think that you
Like I'm
are.
actually pretty like level and
Yeah,
quiet.
you
I always
are.
have been. Like I'm definitely not emotional, and but yeah, it's so funny because that like I mean, I'm sure there was some reason behind it, but like it just is like really stuck with me. Like, oh, maybe I'm
Yeah, I think calling people dramatic is just so very dismissive. It's like,
yes.
yeah, oh, you're being dramatic. Like I was always told that I was dramatic, but I think I am.
I mean, I was an actress. I was also like, I was into the theater, so I'm sure there was some drama about me.
Yeah, like yeah, I'm like dramatic for the entertainment. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like I'm an
yes.
entertainer, but I'm not. But I wasn't like if I was hurt, I was really hurt. I'm not one
Yeah,
to say "ow" if it doesn't actually hurt. You
right.
know, and so like yeah, it conditioned me to be like, don't complain, don't say that you don't feel good, don't say whatever because
Yeah.
you'll just be dramatic. So,
Hmm.
um, this let's see. I was wearing a tube top. I was probably about 13 years old in the comfort of my grandparents' home. A family friend said I looked like a whore. I don't remember anything else she said to me in my childhood except for that. I remember being told my parents' friends, I was like leaving the house to go out. I was maybe like 15 years old
Yeah.
and I was wearing red lipstick, but in like a cool like Gwen Stefani punk way. Like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
wasn't like I was trying to be a whore. I had
You
bleached
weren't
blonde hair, red lipstick.
you weren't fancy. You weren't like, here's your
No.
one chance fancy, don't let me
No,
down.
I wasn't like fancy. I was like, I think I was wearing like definitely covered up, but I just had
Right.
bleach blonde hair and was wearing red lipstick. And I remember my mom's friend saying, like, you're gonna let her leave the house looking like that. Like, and was just shocked. And I think she used a derogatory term like
Yeah.
she looks like a slut or a whore or something like that. And I was like, I just like Gwen Stefani.
Did your mom punch her right in the face? My mom would have punched her in the face.
No. I was in youth theater and I took a stage makeup workshop when I was 10. Before we tried it, the instructor would bring kids to the front and demonstrate various tools and techniques, like makeup techniques, bakes, contour, cuts and bruises, fake hair. He was showing us what to do with the eyebrow pencil in our kit, particularly how to make eyebrows look normal on stage. He brought me up and told me I only had half eyebrows that needed to be filled in. The hair gets lighter and more sparse near the arch is what she said. And it said, I never thought about my eyebrows before that day. And 15 years later, the phrase half eyebrows still pop into my head sometimes when I see my reflection. Isn't it crazy how there's a part of you that you don't even think about? I remember a friend working at an eyebrow place, at a threading place, and she was like, I mean, we got to do something about your eyebrows to me. And I was just like, oh, are my eyebrows? And then I was just like, oh my God, I've been walking around with fucked up eyebrows my whole life. I didn't even think about it. She was like, we have to do something. Yours are on meds.
Oh my God. I remember this comedian. Well, I was an adult, but another like woman comedian who's actually rather famous now was wearing like a dress or a skirt. I can't remember. And then I had like Chuck Taylors on. And she was like, I always want to wear like a tennis shoes with like a skirt. And I just always don't think that like my legs will look right. But we have like the same shaped legs. We both have triangle shaped legs. And I was just like, what?
What's a triangle shaped leg?
It's like fat at top and skinny at the bottom.
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
I don't know. And but it was like such a like weird thing. It just sticks out because it's like, so, it's just like, huh, oh, okay. That's just a thing we're saying about ourselves and other people.
Yeah. Okay, this one says, my mom taught me how to write my name in cursive in the first grade. At school, I proudly handed in my worksheet with my name signed in cursive. My teacher started screaming at me in front of the whole class because we hadn't covered it yet. She went absolutely bonkers. I was so embarrassed that I refused to participate or speak in the classroom. She sent a note home stating that she thought I was intellectually challenged. She said she didn't think I was in the right classroom, and in a panic, my mom and dad swept me off to a therapist and psychiatrist for evaluations. My IQ is measured at 115, not nearly a genius, but fairly high. And then it says, folks marched down to the school for a meeting and presented my evaluations to the teacher. They also gave her a note from my pediatrician. Basically, it questioned her qualifications, and they invited her in so they could measure her IQ. They also agreed that with her assessment that I should not be in her classroom, and she avoided me for the rest of the year. I remember I think I've talked about it on here before. My kindergarten teacher told my mom that I was a liar.
Oh, yeah.
Because we moved next door and she I wrote down my address, and she's like, no, you live at 76 Selmorf or 78 Selmorf. And I was like, no, we moved next door. And she was like, right, sure.
I mean, that does sound like I remember Max in like pre-K or even in preschool, had a new friend named Shannon. And we were like, oh, okay. No, we were like, what's your name? And he was like, what's your friend's name? And he was like, Shannon. And we were like, oh, okay, great. And who's your other friend? And he was like, Cannon. And we're like, okay, I'm sure it's Shannon and Cannon are your two friends. It turns out they were Shannon and Cannon. Those were his friends. But we were just like
children.
We could not stop laughing. We're like, oh, we're going to get his new friends, Shannon and Cannon.
That's so funny.
We're like Shannon, Cannon, and Max. But it was Shannon and Cannon.
That is awesome. This one says, hold on. Oh, this one hurts a little. This says, I had really bad acne as a teenager, and my grandfather got irritated looking at it. He told me to go wash it, and then he said to my cousin, don't ever let your face look like that. My grandfather was mean like that too. It's like and it carried on in the family. It's like they saw your appearance as a reflection on them.
Yeah.
So they were like, and I used to have bad acne in high school and college, and people like would say things to me like it was a choice I made.
Right.
You know, like I could do why are you doing something about it?
Like you weren't doing everything you could to get rid of it. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. And it's like, well, good for you guys, because then I went on Accutane and was suicidal. So
yeah.
Was that worth it? Yeah. Do you want me to go on this like fucked up drug that makes you super depressed?
Well, at least they could look at your fucking face. You know what I mean?
I know. At least I look nice. I know.
Oh God.
This one says, oh my God. This one says, when I was younger, I was really close with my uncle. On my 8th birthday, I ran around and told him to move. I guess. I don't know why he told him to move, but it says he bent down and said, "You will never be better than me. You will never be smarter than me, and you will never be anything more than me." And I haven't been able to look in the eyes since. I'm 30 now. What a fucked
Wow.
up thing to say to a child. Wow, that
That's
guy was having a bad day.
yeah. You know what? I just watched TikTok where it's like one of those, TikTok, YouTube families, which I think is just fucked in and of itself. But
Mhm.
they were like, every year on his birthday, my husband and son race so that my husband can like basically prove he's faster still. And like she of course she like films the race. The husband walks up and he strips off his sweatsuit and he has like a USA Olympic track like uniform on,
Uh-huh.
like real funny. And then so they do the race and the dad wins like barely, but the kid is now like 13 and you can see he's so upset. He's like so
Yeah.
upset that like not only his dad like won, but he's like gloating, right? And it's like, man, is this really A funny
Who
and
is it
B like
for?
for
Yeah.
like now you're posting it on the internet and like I don't know, I don't follow these people and I've seen it. Like I just yeah, that kind of thing of like just putting a kid in their place. It's like, you know what? Kids are in their place. They know.
I
Our
know.
place is to like build them up so that they're confident adults.
Yeah. This one kind of leads into that what you're saying. It says, "My dad told me at age 10, don't be such a know-it-all. To this day, I don't like to show that I know much of anything or have outward confidence."
Yeah.
That's
I
terrible.
think I've said this on the podcast before, but I one time was like hanging out with a family friend. Um, he was like a kid that I grew up on the same street, but then he had moved away and our parents were really good friends. He was a year older than me. He was really cute. But I was maybe like 12 at the time and he was like 13 and our families went to watch like fireworks together and we just like hung out and watched the fireworks together and then the next day he told like our mutual friend. He was like, "Oh my god, Sally talks so much."
Aw.
And after that I was like quiet
Then you just didn't want to talk. Yeah.
because I was like, I didn't realize I was talking too much. I thought we were having a fun time and that he was talking and I was talking and that was like we were having a conversation. And I
Mhm.
remember being like, "Oh, that was really fun."
Well, he's
And
probably
then
just one of those narcissists that needs to talk all the time
I
and be
know, but
listened
isn't that
to.
but it's
Yeah.
like that realization like you have like all of a sudden you think like, "Oh, my perception, I can't trust myself in this
Yeah.
situation. I can't trust myself to know." Where really you should just trust yourself and not be around people who think you talk too much, right? Like just be around
Exactly.
people who enjoy you as you are. Don't like change yourself to like fit into what other people. But yeah, that was like just such an impressionable age. I was like, "Oh my god, and he's like telling people?"
Oh, God. Well, I'm sorry he said
Well,
that
now I
to
have
you.
a fucking podcast and I'm a comedian. I
Yeah.
talk as much as I want.
And a writer,
And
so
a
fuck
writer.
off. Yeah. This one says, "I was about 10 and in the school choir. I really enjoyed singing, and many people complimented my voice. My choir teacher told me that my voice sounded like a chipmunk. It really hurt me, and I gave up, and still to this day, it hurts me." That's awful. You know what made me stop singing?
What?
American Idol. I used to love to sing, and then,
Yeah.
like, when I watched American Idol, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm probably one of these people that thinks that they can sing, but they can't." And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna chance that one."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna even try to, like, because I was like thinking. Then I was thinking back, and I'm like, okay, well, I never made any of the school musicals. I was never like, I never had a solo chorus. I was like, well, clearly I can't sing, so I'm not even gonna do it. Like, so it was like,
The people always
yeah.
told me I was too pitchy, like, and they said it's not for me, dog.
Yeah. So I was like, no more singing.
No more
Um,
singing. I will tell jokes instead.
yeah. Honestly, I'm just gonna end it on that one because the other two are really dark, and we're trying to keep it light here today.
Yeah.
But I think you guys get the gist.
Yeah,
People
yeah, yeah.
Don't say fucked up things to kids because
You
it
know what?
could
Just don't
really
talk to
harm
kids
them.
at all. That's what I think.
Yeah,
We're
just
learning.
don't talk to them.
Just shut them out. I think that will, like, make them into resilient little people. All right. Well, I love that list. I feel like it was like a therapy session for both of us. We really remembered a lot of traumatizing things that we didn't think we had. So, good. Okay. So I have a list from your favorite BuzzFeed. And I always love the list, like where we learn like what people in certain professions, like the secrets of their profession.
Oh yeah, I love it.
So this one is compiled by Sid Robinson, and it is cruise ship employees are exposing their secrets and stories, and suddenly Below Deck is looking tame. So, okay. I guess Below Deck is a reality show.
It's a
Okay.
great show. It's a wonderful show.
Why am I telling
Bravo.
you?
Yeah.
I guess Below Deck is like a reality show. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have. It's a Bravo show, and I've watched all 48 seasons.
I don't want to. I don't want to presume that I know you don't watch all reality TV, so I don't want to presume, and I don't.
If it's TLC or any of that shit, probably not.
Yeah,
but if
you're
it's
not
Bravo,
watching Duggars.
Yeah, if it's Bravo, you better believe it. I've watched them all.
It's must-see TV.
It is.
Mixing with guests after hours is highly forbidden. That being said, it might as well be written in crayon on the walls because everyone breaks it, myself included. You have to be crafty to avoid security officers when staking someone into your room or trying to go to a guest cabin, but it happens all the time.
Oh yeah, it happens on Below Deck all the time. Like
they
every season,
sleepers-
there's somebody faced with the dilemma of like a hot charter guest that really wants to hook up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, shouldn't I? And then they like, it's fireable offense, but some of them find a way.
Yeah. Love finds a way. Lust finds a way.
Yeah.
I imagine on a huge cruise ship that is like, it's even easier, right? Because
Yeah,
you're just
for sure.
like, I'm going to put on some sunglasses and a hat and we're going to just go right on in. Okay. To find hot passengers we potentially want to hook up with during their cruise, we would go through the photo department and look at the welcome aboard photos displayed
that's
within
so
the photo
smart.
gallery. Yes. If we would see could see if a particular person was on a family cruise with their significant other or with friends. In the case of the latter, it's party on.
That is so smart.
So smart.
Yeah, you gotta look for like the group of girls. It's like by them, like it looks like a bachelorette party or something.
And
they're wearing
t-shirts.
Just
know, if you are a hot single, like going on a cruise, there is a big chance that you could hook up with a hot bartender.
Yeah,
or even like a cruise party starter.
They're
or maybe the
for
cruise comedian.
A party starter.
The party starter. We have a friend who's like right now working on, she's like a MC on like those celebrity cruises. And I wonder, we should get a report from her, what kind of shenanigans go on those cruises, because I bet they're wild.
Oh, I'll get a report.
Yeah, get a report.
Yeah.
Like, we want to know about the shenanigans. Give it to us.
She does specifically like these like punk rock cruises and comedy cruises. So I can't imagine what that's like.
Yes, because it's all like fans of certain like Bert Kreischer or,
I would imagine it's like, remember like
Slipknot.
MTV Spring Break back in like the 90s? I would imagine it's like MTV Spring Break every day.
Yeah. I gotta
like
be
wet t-shirt
honest,
contest.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, I know. I would never want to do it. Yeah.
I mean, but good for her. Okay. There is a morgue on board every cruise. Being that it's mostly older folks who take cruises, it happens sometimes where you have to store a body, hence the morgue. We have a code word of white star, report to the whatever, which means that someone is dying and needs medical help, and everyone that's trained is to report to that location.
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah. And
makes sense.
They're not like, you're in the middle of the ocean. You're not stopping a cruise for like thousands of people for one dead person.
I mean,
it's awful.
On commercial flights, do they fly bodies like in cargo on commercial flights? Could we be flying with dead bodies?
Is that
I
true?
mean, how do they get them home? Do you have to buy him a ticket? Weekend at Burmese
Weekend at Bernie's.
from Phoenix to Orlando.
You're like,
How does
I had
that
the
work?
best seatmate. So quiet. Only leaned on me a bit.
Arms are crossed with sunglasses on.
They just sat in there. They didn't even get up. Crazy.
It's cheaper to pay for economy
Yeah.
than cargo. Yeah.
Oh, so great. Okay, so if you are not an officer or contracted worker, the pay is absurdly low. I was a 2.5 strip officer making roughly $3,300 a month before taxes, while the only thing I paid for was internet and anything I wanted to do in ports. I still would bring home about $2,500 every month. I worked every other 24 hours for 4 months straight, which was rough enough as it was. In contrast, my now husband worked 10 to 12-hour shifts 7 days a week for 9 months straight and was paid $850 a month.
Oh my God. I thought that one was going to be the low one.
Right?
The first story, I didn't know it got worse. That's awful.
Oh, yeah, it got worse. It got
You would
worse.
think, yeah. Oh God, that's awful.
I think that's why there's so many on like cruise ships. There are people from like very poor countries who are just like working there. I mean, I've been on one cruise. I never want to go again unless someone gave it for free. I think we have made that very clear. Unless someone wants to give us a cruise for free.
But I still wouldn't even go on a free Carnival cruise.
No,
you couldn't pay me
get
to
me
go
a
on
nice
Carnival
one.
Cruise. Yeah,
or a Disney cruise. I don't think I want to go on a Disney cruise. Not after
they're actually really nice.
I know
that's the
nice.
only cruise that I went on, and I can tell you, I know it's nice. I know it's amazing, but even the amazing cruise, I was like, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, the cruise I went on was very nice too. It was like my grandparents paid for it, and I mean, it was an old person's cruise for sure, but it was like very nice,
like a Norwegian river cruise.
I don't know. We went to the Bahamas and stuff. Okay, one time the rudder, the fin-like thing underwater that steers the ship, got stuck in a turning position, and the ship began to list sharply to one side. An officer on the watch quickly cut the engines and was able to save us from tipping completely over, apparently by a matter of seconds. Lots of dishes broken, pool water everywhere, and a few minor injuries were all that came of it, but it could have been worse.
What happened to the buffet? What happened to the big, disgusting buffet that everybody is knocking each other over? I can't imagine what that scene looked like. I bet that would look like this scene in, what's that movie? Triangle of Sadness, the disgusting puke scene.
Oh, where like every single person
just like
puking,
food everywhere and everybody's falling all over each other.
And still somebody's just like getting a plate of bacon.
Yeah.
Somebody's crawling across the floor, like angling themselves to get the plate of bacon.
Get over to the shrimp pile.
Okay, this one I think will absolutely not like surprise you at all because you have experienced this in retail, but every ship has a phantom pooper. I saw human poop on a carpeted staircase. A colleague found one in an elevator. I guess passengers get lost and just drop their load where they stand if they can't find their cabin.
Oh my God. That's disgusting.
I mean, that would be like a real low.
Makes sense though, right? It's like everybody's like drinking and their stomachs are uneasy because of being on a boat, and they're eating all kinds of like, bacterial buffet food.
What?
This just in. Emergency. Breaking news. The night clipper is back.
What?
I need details.
Night clipper. He clips at night.
Texting details.
Okay, while you are getting details, let's
prove it.
Recap for those people who are new. Okay. The night clipper is somebody that Jen's our anonymous source discovered. Jen's friend, our anonymous source, discovered on in her neighborhood, and it is somebody who goes around and clips other people's landscaping that is too close to the sidewalk at night.
Yeah, like with a fury, like angrily clips.
Angrily clips,
and then
letters,
then
has been exposed
about the morning dew brushing his ankle.
Yeah.
and the lantana being overgrown.
There was like an
And-
attempted sting operation of the neighbors, and then they got the wrong day. He never
And
came.
then there was video of it.
Uh-huh.
It's out there.
He's been identified. Everybody knows who he
identified,
is.
Yeah. And
He's
then I
like
went on
the
a date.
CEO of. He's the CEO of like
Yeah.
a company.
And then I went on a date with a guy, and I was telling him about the night clipper story. And then I realized, and then he got really quiet. And then I was like, why does this guy not think this story is funny? Because this is awesome. And then I learned that they lived on the same street. And I looked at his LinkedIn, which I later learned people can see when you look at their LinkedIn. And he works with the night clipper and lives on a street. And I was like, surely he knows this guy that I was talking about. And he got real quiet when I brought up the night clipper. They could clip together.
They may clip together. This may
It could be a two-man job.
It's definitely a two-man job. The night clipper. So what was the intel? Just that he's back? Night clipper is
It just
back?
is night clipper's back. And I said, details. And I'm waiting
Are there any
for
dots?
the details. So I'm hoping, no, this person, I'm not going to say their name, can be kind of an information tease. I'm going to be quite honest with you.
Oh,
She likes
anonymous
to
source.
dangle. She's going to make me work for it. I'm really going to have to
You
work.
wily minx.
Yeah. Hopefully by next episode, I will have more details ready for you guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, what a teaser. We're on the edge of our seats. Okay. This one says, one time I was on a ship and a water pipe burst in the storeroom and soaked all of the spare toilet paper. This was on day 2 of a 14-day voyage to Antarctica. The cabin stewards had to swap around rolls of paper between low-use and high-use guest cabins, and it came right down to the wire. None of the guests found out or realized. Now toilet paper is hidden in every cabin instead of the centralized location.
That is smart. Oh my God, that's crazy.
God, that's so. I just am imagining just like the panic, the constant panic of like, oh my God, we're gonna run out of toilet paper on a cruise to Antarctica where you cannot resupply.
I do like that they kept everybody in the dark about it, because it would have been like COVID times with everybody hoarding.
Yeah, they must have known. Like, you can't tell people there's a shortage, or you can't be like, hey, hey, don't use so much because people will hoard it. Oh God.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. That's wild. That was a wild time. That's a wild time, Jen. All right. Well, that's my list.
I like it.
Don't go on a cruise. That's the moral of the story. Don't go on a cruise. Don't talk to children.
Just stop being creeps. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's do our top 5.
Okay, let's do it.
This week, we are doing our top 5 favorite documentaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the idea because, well, first of all, I love documentaries. And but the new Jinx, part 2 of the Jinx is coming out after years of, the first season of the Jinx,
Yeah.
But there's another one. And honestly, like, even though I'm so excited to watch it, I'm like, I got to prepare mentally. Like, I'm not ready yet. Like, I will get into it, but I'm not quite ready. But it made me think of documentaries and ones that I love. And thought this would be a fun one to do. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Okay. So and these are like, I just realized, I was like, oh, I haven't been watching documentaries that much recently. So these are mostly older documentaries, and you will find a theme that none of them are like hard hitting or like not about, like, they're all very light documentaries, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there was a phase where I watched true crime documentaries and like, all of the like really big, like very important issue documentaries, and I just realized like, oh, I think that's not for me. I just I don't do, John, I'm so empathetic.
You are.
I'm such an empath that I just am like, oh, I do better reading about this stuff than I do seeing it.
I can't even look if I watched Dear Zachary a long
Yes.
time ago.
Yes.
I
Same.
can't even look at the like title card for it
Yeah.
if it comes up in my feed. I'm like, no, I'm like, I can't. I can never do that again. That was the most like horrific
Yes.
journey into the pits of hell.
Yeah.
And this poor family, and like I can't even look at that, or like there's something about Aunt Diane, something's wrong with Aunt Diane, that one
Yeah.
too, like all of those, like I can't, no thank you. There
Yeah.
was a
No,
time in my
same.
life where I could watch those, but I can't anymore.
Yeah, that
So,
time has passed.
yeah.
Okay, so my number 5 is Psalm.
Yeah, I can't believe that's not on mine.
Yeah, I just,
That's a
it's
great
one of
one.
those. So it's, if you haven't seen it, I mean, it's an older one, but it is about people taking their master's sommelier tests.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of those things that, like, despite the fact that I don't know anything about it, I like didn't, it's like at the time when I watched it, I wasn't like super into wine, but it's just this like watching people like pursue their dreams and just
Yeah.
learning all about that and how they get into it and how they study for it and like, cheering them on it's so compelling and so well done, and I really loved it.
Oh yeah, I strong agree. Like there are some 1, 2, and 3, and I like tore through all of them, and that's like what really inspired me to want to get my certification. I mean, I'm just a level 1 W set, but like I don't know.
You're not just a level 1 W
I'm
set.
just a stupid idiot. Somebody said that to me when I was younger. No, just kidding. That I was just a level 1. No, but it's like the people that are master somms, like it's just like amazing to me.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know that I could ever, that I will ever get to that level, but I find those people to be completely fascinating. My number 5 is, I've watched it a bunch of times. I watched it again recently. Dig. I love this documentary.
I've not heard of it.
It's really cool. It's about it's a music documentary about the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown massacre.
Oh,
And
fun.
it's like
Yeah.
how they kind of came up in the same scene. They inspired each other. They were friends. They wrote music together. And then one of them achieves commercial fame and success,
Yeah.
and the other one doesn't. And then they become enemies, and it's just really interesting, and it's fun to watch. And
Yeah.
Brian Jonestown Massacre has always been like, they're known for just being, I mean, I love their music, and but they're known for being like volatile. You never know what's going to happen at one of their shows. They fight all the time. It's like a hockey game version of going to a show. You're just waiting for the fight. But it's funny because like me and Jim went to one back in October, November. We went to a show, and clearly, like, I've aged out of having patience for that bullshit.
Right.
I was like, get your shit together and fucking play. It's 9:00 on a Tuesday. I'm tired.
And you're just like, aren't you tired of it? Like, you've got to be like
older than me. They're in their 50s. I'm like, get it together. Be friends. This isn't cool anymore.
Yeah, like, how long are you gonna do this? How long are you gonna do this? Oh, that's great. I'll have to watch that. I love music documentaries, but I don't watch them enough. I always forget about them. Okay, but this one's kind of a music documentary. My number 4 is 20 Feet from Stardom.
Oh, okay. I don't
Have
think
you
I've
heard
seen
that? It is about backup singers.
Oh, cool.
And it is, oh my God, these women are amazing. It is so, so good.
Mariah Carey was a backup singer until she wasn't.
Right? Yeah, it will make you cry with like happy and also just like emotional tears. It's like, yeah, it's
cool.
so
I
good.
will check that out.
Mm-hmm.
My number 4 is also a music documentary, but not really.
Yeah.
Is Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Have you ever seen that? Oh my God, it's so good. It's like it's it's just like a tongue-in-cheek documentary about like one night. I want to say it was at like a Slayer show or something like that.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it in a very long time, but it took place in like the 80s, and it was just them interviewing everybody in the parking lot, like getting ready for the show, and the characters and the people, and it's just so cool. It's like watching a Christopher Guest movie that's real. You know what
Right.
I
Just
mean?
like, yeah, watching like just this snapshot of like such a specific moment in time and such a
Yeah.
specific group of people. Like, I love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay. So my number 3 is Call Me Lucky, which is,
Oh, I don't know
it's
that.
actually by my good friend Bobcat Goldthwait, and it is about
Oh.
Barry Crimmins, who was a
Oh
comedian
yeah.
and like an activist, and it's just like his story, and it's so
No, I
like
have seen it. I
it's
have.
so good.
Yeah.
It's so like
Mhm.
really heartfelt and funny, but like also just like yeah, make you cry, beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I loved it.
Awesome. My number 3 is Dancing Outlaw. Have you ever seen that? And then there was a
No,
spin-off of that one, which was like the Wild Whites of
West Virginia.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Uh
yeah.
huh.
But it was Dancing Outlaws, Jesco. God, I can't remember his name anymore. It's been so long
Is
since
it
I've seen
white?
it. Jessica White, yeah.
Yeah.
Duh. And but it's like he's like like not clogging, I guess. It's like a different kind of folk dancing, but
Yeah.
he's like it's just wild how he was like considered like Elvis, you know what I mean, in
Yeah.
his community, and he was like a total shitbag. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like it's the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia is the other one, but yeah.
When we first moved to, so we lived in West Virginia for 5 years, and when we first like drove into town into Morgantown, on the marquee at the movie theater was it just said Whites of West Virginia, and we were like, what
Oh,
the fuck? Like, where did we
uh-oh.
move? Oh no. Because we had not heard of the documentary yet, but
The crazy thing is, like, I remember thinking, like, Jesco, when he was younger, was such a handsome man, but it's like, it's wild what meth will do to a person. That's for sure.
yeah, you just fuck that face right up.
Yeah. Fuck them teeth right out of that mouth.
Yep. Okay. So my number 2 is the comedians of comedy.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, and I just, I'm like I have such like I had it on VH DVD. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it's like follows it's just funny cuz I'm like, "Oh god, they were like I did tours like that where you just all get in a van and you're like 5 comedian friends like going from place to place performing for like maybe not that many people, but it was
Yeah.
Maria Bamford, Brian
Mick
Posehn, Zach Galifianakis, Patton Oswalt, and then there was one more. Who was the 5th one? Or was it just those 4?
4, yeah.
Okay,
That's really
yeah.
cool.
And like you're just like, oh, these people are like so hugely famous now, like have gone
Yeah.
on to like be so successful. And I've watched that movie so many times. I love it. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is, and I've watched this a bunch, and then a show came out recently where like they made a comeback or whatever, but it's called The Queen of Versailles. Have you seen it?
Yes, I
Hmm.
have.
I love
Oh
it.
yeah,
It's about
so
this
good.
super wealthy family that got really rich
Yeah.
from like their timeshare company in Florida and like real estate, and then they decided to build a replica of Versailles,
Yes.
and they put all this money into this house, and then the bubble bursts, and it's like even when they do have all this money, it's like they live like you could have all the money in the world and you could have live in the most beautiful house, but there
Yeah.
are still like there's dog shit everywhere. There's cats peeing,
Yeah.
dead animals that they forgot that they owned. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
The places and they're just like a mess. But it's just like what people do with that much money
Right.
when they're a mess.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy. Hmm.
Janet's like they say money doesn't buy you class.
It doesn't. Elegance is learned, my friend. That's
Uh
Countess Luann.
I assumed that was a that was a housewives quote. Okay, so my number 1, and this is like probably the least inspiring name, and I don't even know if you can find it anymore, but it is a documentary called Sport in America, Our Defining Stories. And
Huh.
I know it sounds like, look, it sounds awful. And it is like, it made me cry and like feel hopeful more than any documentary I've ever watched. My
Really?
friend Alex Stone recommended it to me, and it is about fandom. So it's about like, yeah, just about being a fan of sports teams. And so it's not really
Oh.
about sports itself. It's about like people's stories of like how, they went to baseball games with their parents and how, what that connection with your community is. And there's this one scene where a man, like the Red Sox win the World Series. Win the World
Uh-huh.
Series. And this guy who had been a lifelong like fan with his father, whose father had died the year before and had
Aw.
never seen the Red Sox win. And he goes to his father's grave with a flashlight and he looks around the cemetery and there are all these people with flashlights going to see their like dead parents and grandparents because
Aw,
the
to
Red
tell
Sox won and they were like
them.
such fans. And I'm getting chills just like thinking about
Oh,
that. Oh,
that's. Tell me again what it's called.
it's called Sport in America.
Sport in America.
Our
Okay.
defining stories.
Aw, okay. I will
Yeah, it's
check that out.
an HBO documentary.
Oh wow. So the documentary that I was my number one, I was about to say you can't get it anywhere because I've tried to find it, but I just pulled it up and you can buy it now on Apple TV for
Oh,
$10.
all right.
But it's called Hands on a Hard Body. Have you ever watched this?
I've heard of it, but no, I don't think I've watched it.
Oh,
It's about people like with
it's
their hands on like a car to like win the car.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it took place in 1997, but it was like yeah, this like small town and 24 people
Yeah.
are chosen to like compete to you have to keep your hand on the truck no
Yeah.
matter what, the last person standing wins the truck. But it's like it's like really funny and it's also like
Yeah.
very like heartfelt, but it's like learning everybody's stories, watching everybody's weird techniques. I know that there's one guy his technique was to like eat a Snicker bar every 30 minutes
Yeah.
to like keep himself going. And like
Yeah.
there's all the I haven't seen it in so long, but I remember I watched it like and they're sleep deprived, so then they go like days and days and days.
Right.
And then like someone you could watch somebody just like holding on and then just go, uh, shit, and like
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
like
yeah.
does off and like does 4 days of like sleep
Right.
deprivation and 46 Snicker bars. I can't even remember who wins because I haven't. It's been a while since I watched it, but now I'm definitely gonna watch it again. But now that it's available,
Oh my
um,
gosh, that sounds
but
awesome. Yeah, on Apple TV. I'm gonna
mm-hmm,
watch that one.
yeah,
Why now I have like so many documentaries to watch, and I just remember I'm
yeah.
like I love documentaries. Why do I not watch them more? I
And
don't know.
now we can, ignore the nice weather this weekend and stay indoors and watch documentaries.
Okay, that sounds
Okay,
nice.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's not do
All
any of
right.
our chores. Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear if didn't what motherfucker told you something as a kid that has stayed with you. Also, we want to hear, have you been on a cruise ship? You got a cruise ship story? And what are your favorite documentaries?
Yeah. What are we
Lighthearted
missing?
only. Heartfelt and lighthearted only, please. And get in touch with us. You can find us on Instagram. We are at The Ridiculous Pod. On TikTok, we're at The Ridiculous Podcast. You can rate and review. You can tell a friend. We would love that.
We would. We would love all those things. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on The Ridiculous.
Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridic. You.